Good evening, keepers of the cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here, and I hope everyone's doing well tonight. We have one of my favorite people ever on the channel tonight. That's Metarog. And before we bring him out, we're gonna bring the guy with the fattest stack of comics in the land, my co-host Rob. How are you, sir?
Well, it's another day. It's another $1.50.
Right. Sometimes that's all you can say about the day.
After paying my taxes this year, that's about all I've got.
Right. And we got our guest of the hour, Roger. How are you doing this evening, Roger?
I am well, thank you, Gary and Rob. It's great to be with you here again. It seems like we were only here last month on another show, but what a great time that was. So
and a great kickoff you gave us on that show. That was excellent, Roger.
Oh, I had a blast, a total blast.
Let's say hi to the audience real quick, and then we'll get into it here.
All right.
All right, the hunt continues. How are you, sir? Our good buddy, Chop and Drop. How are you, sir? Brother John, welcome. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
All right. Grotu Orlov, thank you, sir. We really appreciate you being in.
Yeah, John, I didn't get off of practice. The nice thing about being an A's fan is that you're always ready for St. Patty's Day. In fact, some might say this year, like many other years, it's the only nice thing about being an A's fan.
D. Jackson Roy Kirk, always great to see him. Naman, how are you, sir?
Burn the Warlock, Roger.
So Roger, to get us going here, for anyone that's watching on the rewind, Joe, how are you, sir? For anyone that's watching on the rewind that doesn't know you yet, give them a brief synopsis of who Roger is and the Metarog channel in general.
Well, I'm a long time collector of comic books and retro video games. Mostly comic books. I'd say retro video games is a very far away second. Probably I've been reading comics for about 45 years without much of a drop off, believe it or not, even through kids and marriage and the whole bit. My channel is essentially a lot about retrospectives, a lot about long collections of storylines, of characters, and of titles. And I like to wax nostalgic here and there. And I also do, of course, the what I call now the community contest links video, in which I find all the contests, that not all, but as many as I can find, giveaways in the comic community, and I make a video every 2 weeks, a really short one, so that everybody will know and try to support other channels. And that's what I'm really big about in my channel is like you, Gary, growing the community, bringing us closer together, getting us to know each other. And I think once we have that kind of nexus, we can all be winners. We can all grow and all have the channels that we really desire to have. So that's essentially what I'm about.
Nice. So let's start at the beginning, because we touched on a few things when we had you on the 1011 that I wanted to explore a little more.
Sure.
Now, you said your introduction to comics was through your brother.
Right. That's correct.
All right. Yep. Now, once he got you into comics, now, did you guys have the same interests? Did you guys like the same characters, different characters? And you said he eventually got out of comics, but your love stayed there. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, I'd say at the beginning, our interests were similar because I was essentially reading his comics, right? So, he would have some Metal Men, he would have some, ASM, he'd have some JLA. So I kind of gravitated toward those very early when I was very young. I'm talking 6 years old or so. Again, I wasn't really proficient at reading at that point, but I was getting there. But he was kind of getting out of comics at that point. He would have been 15, 16 around that point. So he was kind of getting out of it, but he kept telling me about, his collection. He supposedly had this really good Silver Age collection when he was younger. And, at some point I just, fell in love with them, head over heels. and I wanted more and more and more. And that's when I started at school, you know, when I talked about the gambling or, you know, trading there. And then at that point, that expanded my my knowledge a little bit more, and I went into other genres. You know, a little bit of horror, a little bit of, you know, Western sort of, because those were easily attainable. Nobody really wanted the Westerns and the war back then. So I like those. But superheroes were always the most interesting to me. They just had such a unique universe, and they had such different and very deep characters. So even at a young age, I really gravitated toward those, and especially the Justice League. That was the one that I really got into, because I had, you know, all these goofy characters, but Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, all the big guys were in there. So much so that I actually, for my birthday one year, I asked for a subscription. 1974, I think. It might have been 74, 75. And at that point, though, my brother was out of that. So he just, you know, he would take me to 7-Eleven to sort of support my hobby, but he wouldn't buy the comics. I'd buy the comics.
And I miss those days when you can go to a gas station and buy comic books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just cool.
Yeah.
Well, I used, you know, now I cringe at it, but I mean, I loved just having a subscription and just having them mailed directly to my home. That was great.
Yep. And it came those brown wrappers, you know,
yeah,
wrapped, so you had that nice little crease down the middle.
Yeah, until eventually they switched, and then they started, later on they would put them into small manila envelopes, but which of course protected the books equally as well, but at least you didn't start off with the center crease.
Right. But of course the mailboxes, they would, you know, of course, make
the
them,
slot
you know,
was only this wide.
Yeah, it was cylindrical, so they would just shove them in there, and
you know, the mailman didn't care. Just
no.
Well, the slot was narrower than the envelope. So.
Yeah, there's no way. It's not like nowadays where they would knock and leave them at your door. No, they stuff everything into that mailbox.
So when you were growing up and you were reading all these years, did you have somebody you shared the hobby with, or was it kind of a man alone hobby where you were just collecting and kind of just doing your own thing?
Right. I got my cousin into it quite a bit. He's a big Daredevil fan and Moon Knight fan, and he still collects, but, you know, not very vigorously. Like, we'll talk every once in a while, and he'll say, hey, he'll send me his want list and say, if you run into this, get it for me. He and I went to a few conventions together in the Miami area, region, down there in the 80s. But since I moved away about 15 years ago, we haven't been to a convention together. But he was really the only other one I've shared my hobby with. Other than that, it's been a pretty solitary ride.
When it was raining, his subscription got pretty soggy.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a few soggy comics. Yeah.
So it's the point where it's the same thing as, like, even shipping, when I ship stuff out today and I'm cognizant of it, you know, you're always wrapping books in plastic or something inside all the protection. But then because I don't have a label maker, I print my shipping labels on paper that when I'm shipping back, especially to the East where you guys are, I will put tape over the address and the barcode to make sure that it can't get smeared by rain.
I do that too. I over tape. So when I put the label on, I put tape over the label so the address will never smear.
Yeah. And I don't have to do that here on the West Coast.
What?
I don't have to do that here in California. I ship in California, you know. I actually almost want to tempt it to rain. It's like we're all out washing our cars and everything else to try to make it rain.
Hey, Matt, how you doing, buddy?
So let's talk about your collection. You said you've been collecting for 45 years.
Well, I want to say real quick before you do that, I also tied into the brothers, and you said what was the one you said a lot of the books that you were reading were stuff that he was reading and stuff. Right. But what one was like the first one that you started getting for you? Do you remember?
I don't think he got specifically anything for me.
No, when you would start, once he started,
he's saying,
yeah, when you started getting your own, what was the first title that you went and got for you?
Oh, I get it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was I remember Captain Marvel was a favorite of mine because of that colorful, red and blue costume. And at that point is when Starlin had started, and he had those great covers with the starscapes. So those, when I was younger, the covers really spoke to me. That's what sold me, right? Now I'm like, I'm not much of a cover guy. I'm just like, is the story good? But so Captain Marvel was one. Ghost Rider was another. Legion of Superheroes was another one, again, because there were so many different diverse characters.
Bang for your buck.
You got it. Yeah, that's right.
Or
you got
bang
it.
for your
Avengers was another one I bought early on. And Deathlock, Astonishing Tales. That really made an impression upon me. I thought that was just superb.
Cool.
All right. So with the 45 years of collecting, have you turned any of your collection over, or are you the keeper and you go back and you reread, and pretty much what's in your collection has always been in your collection?
Yeah, it's a black hole. It comes in and nothing comes out.
There is nothing wrong with that. And what I like about you is you're a reader. There's a lot of when you guys, like when you and Bill from Comic Mag Musings are breaking down a whole storyline, and you guys got good retention on those, which tells me you've both read them through those stories multiple times.
Right.
And as a reader myself, that's something I can appreciate.
Yeah, I know you do those Conan reviews, so I know that you've read those things to death, right? But now I've read, there was a video sometime back that said, the things that comic collectors want to say but don't do, and one of them was, I'm going to read all my comics. Like, supposedly nobody reads all their comics. Wrong. Every comic that you see appear, and in these boxes down here, I have read at least once. I just picked up maybe 50 or 60 from when I went up to see Silver Age Dave and Bub, and I've already read about 20 of those. So before those go into the boxes, I read those.
Very nice.
Now, I think I heard you mention before, since we got the Jackson Roykirk in here, you were also a Star Trek fan, right?
Yes. The original series. Yes, that's correct.
Oh, just the original series, or?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a little bit of Next Generation. I've seen the feature films, but the biggest part of fandom for me is the original series. And I do have a lot of the Gold Key Star Trek series comics as well.
Yeah, that made it to all the publishers, Star Trek.
Yeah. Marvel, DC, Gold Key, more modern one.
Afraid to pimp it.
Yeah.
So you reading these comics and these different eras of them. I mean, there's obviously very different styles that we've come through on some of them. I was just commenting the other day about a lot of the Silver Age, especially the anthology type books. Not necessarily the superhero books, but where the makeup of all these short stories, multiple short stories in a book that were complete. You read it one and done, and it wasn't the carryover. Versus today, the books that just are like a run-on sentence practically from one book to the next book.
Yeah.
What era of storytelling really kind of, when you want to sit down and read it, do you find most entertaining from that? The short story format, the wordy exposition of some of the Silver Age and early Bronze Age, the ongoing epic crossover arcs of the modern age?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rob. I guess I sort of gravitate more toward the Bronze Age shorter story arcs. Mm-hmm. Like, how they would go 2, 3, 4 issues perhaps.
Right.
That's kind of where my attention span is, even back then and now as well. It sort of hasn't changed that way, but depending on the story elements and how well it's written, I think all the above, right? Because some of those short anthologies have, some really great moralistic lessons and some very good and impactful writing as well. And then some of those long, like Acts of Vengeance, which was like 50 some issues, and Secret Wars 2, let's not talk about that one, right? But some of those longer, almost serial like stories, issues, I also appreciate. The only problem is that there's a lot of time investment in it, and nowadays it's hard to. For me, I mean, I would have to read that within like a 3 or 4 day period, and that's a lot of time to invest in it. Back then, you'd read it as it came out, and then you're anticipating the next.
Yeah, but I don't know that you'd see, the stuff that you see today in the past, where some of these things where not only do you have a 10 or 12 issue arc, but then there's an underlying 50 or 60 issue arc that just goes on for years. I mean, it's just that's a long investment on some of that stuff. And you're right, those little short. Sometimes I enjoy like the stuff that from the old Mystery in Spaces and the Tales of the Unexplained and or stuff where it's amazing what they could put in a 7-page story. Sometimes.
Yeah, some people think that just because it's shorter that you don't have as much talent that has to go into it, but quite the opposite. In order for you to get a coherent story out of a 5 or 6 page comic story, you have to really know what you're doing, and it has to have some kind of impact, or else it's just a throwaway, right? So yeah, I agree, Rob, wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it is tough. I mean, look, when we're told to make a top 10 list, that's a struggle. Imagine telling a writer they can only tell a story in 10 to 12 pages. I mean, you have to tell a coherent opening act, middle act, and conclusion within that, and have it coherent and have it captivating. And that's a challenge all on its own. I mean, there's a reason that they do like 2-line stories and stuff to teach people how to think like that. And
right.
But it's definitely cool.
I've written comic stories before, and a lot of the time I've just jettisoned them because I have a process of how I get to the impactful part, the climax, and it was just not that good because it was either the lead-in was too long or it was just too weak, and so it's not easy to write those shorter stories. It really isn't. If well done, it can be very impactful and very memorable.
So you said the climax was too long and too weak.
Right.
That's Slab Hub talk. We're on a different show here.
What the hell?
Right. I have to be careful, what I say, because things are taken out of context. But I mean it within the story context. Okay.
I didn't see Comic Mag Musings in there, so I thought I'd get a shot in for him until he arrives.
Oh, I'm sure. I can't see the chat. It's over here to me, but I'm sure I'm getting lambasted for that one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. For the record, I didn't even go for that one. So
thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
Somebody has a pure mind here.
Yeah, well, it's not me.
Let's not go that far, but
at least in that instance.
So I still want to talk to you about story, right? Because you're a reader, and being a reader myself, there's storylines I reread every single year that really speak to me. And no matter how many times I read them, even since a kid, I love them. Even though my perspective on them has changed, I still find them fascinating, just in a different way. What storyline have you gone back to the most to read over and over again that just brings you that kind of joy?
That's I think I can answer this one coherently. Crisis on Infinite Earths. Not all the crossovers, but some of the more critical ones included. Right. It gets a lot of mixed reviews, because ultimately they said it didn't really should I say, yeah, that's right, Bub. Ultimately it didn't achieve the goal that it had, right? It did merge the DC timelines and dimensions and all that, but later on it kind of just gotten unwound, right? But when you consider what a feat that was for Wolfman and Perez to take that on and essentially try to make a coherent universe out of 50 years of just, slap shot stuff, I thought it was very well done, honestly. And every time I read it, I appreciate that their talent and their efforts all the more. Okay? Another one that that I really just thought was really, really action and cool was the Kree Skrull War that went through Avengers 89 through 97, and I think there were some tangential subplots in Amazing Adventures. Great stuff. You had Neil Adams for a great part of that. Roy Thomas. You're talking about bringing back Golden Age characters. You're talking about Captain Marvel being involved. Again, other elements of continuity from other titles in there that ultimately impacted the whole universe, right?
Right.
The Avengers Defenders War, I think, is one of my favorites. I read almost every year because, you have the Defenders, which were kind of the upstarts, and then you have the Avengers, which were the long time, base team there in the Marvel universe. But really, the Defenders really whipped them. If you want to know the truth, I mean, Silver Surfer, Hulk, Doctor Strange. That's hard to overcome.
It is.
Submariner.
And just how good they looked drawn by the guys back then. Like, all right, the Bronze Age space stuff just looks amazing. Like you said, you bring up Jim Starlin. He was just so good at it. It's like putting Bernie Wrightson in horror, Jim Starlin in the cosmic. And just
Buscema was really good in that series too. Sal, he did a lot of those issues. I think Steve Englehart was the writer for at least the Avengers part, maybe the Defenders part as well. Really good stuff. And just, and again, it's like you said, I know, Bub. We were together for, 4 days almost. It's like you said, back then I read it for a kind of in a different vein, right? I was into the action and the anticipation of what the battle would be and what the results would be. And now, even though I know the results, I still enjoy it. Even though I know, it's like spoilers in my head, right? I sort of erase it, and I still anticipate, is Submariner going to beat Captain America for the evil eye?
Right?
So
you get lost in the story.
I get lost in it. That's correct. Yeah.
So, with as much as you've read, what is a forgotten character that you would love to see make a resurgence in comics and just in popularity that you think has been forgotten and dismissed?
I think Deathlock would be a heck of a good character if done well, and kind of a dystopian future, because he was essentially the puppet of a government that was placed because society had crumbled around it, and he was the one who took out the rebel elements. But what they didn't figure, even though he was cybernetic, but he had human parts, including part of his brain, and all he wanted to do was regain his humanity. That's all he wanted, to regain his humanity, go back to his family. That's something that it impressed upon me, that a man's soul can never be erased. You can kill the body, but you can't kill that part that God has instilled in us. And I think that would be a great show or a movie. Putting it in a dystopian future, and how he can redeem himself. Even though he was a program killer, at some point he overran the orders that were put into him, and I just think it would be a really good overcoming kind of film.
Right, and I think without Deathlock, there's no like RoboCop or anything like that. Kind of
no Terminator, right?
Right, all these base heroes that started this stuff, that and other ones that got more popular than them when they were done. But that's a good character and a good choice. And it seems like
I'm biased, but I think it would be cool. I definitely would watch it. So at least I got one fan.
Right. Well, no, I think Deathlock, and especially today with today's like world events and with the kind of technology we have today, like people now say, oh, you could have an Iron Man suit, which you really couldn't. But but Deathlock isn't so much an unbelievable anymore with what's going on. So you could make some really good storytelling with it. And the way corporations can be underhanded is something that could really tie into his development, you know, because corporations, they're going to make something that only benefits them.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, despite the rest of the stuff that was going on at the time, the character arc was pretty good on Agents of Shield for Deathlock. If you guys saw it, I mean,
I did.
the first season was a rough season in general, but the character arc as he went on throughout the rest of it was a lot of that trying to find his humanity and overriding the orders and all the other stuff. It was all, I thought, was pretty good.
Yeah, getting past that kill command. It was, Rob. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was actually one of those shows where I'm with Rob. The first season was not good, but that show got better every season. Yep. And I literally liked it more and more. And when they introduced Robbie Reyes as Ghost Rider, he was fantastic on the show. And the effects look better than they did in the Ghost Rider movies.
Yeah, those were rough in that movie.
Yeah.
I blacked them out.
I can't blame you.
So, and I know Ghost Rider is a big character for you because you talked about your connection with Johnny Blaze. Did you want to expand on that at all here? Or?
Sure, absolutely. Because Blaze, you know, obviously I wasn't a stunt rider or anything like that, but I had a lot of emotional issues when I was younger, and sometimes I would just sort of, it was almost like I lost control of who I was. Right, it was almost like I had a dual personality, although I was not. That wasn't the case. It was just strictly an emotional issue, partial depression, things like that. And, you know, I sort of related to when he became, you know, the Zarathos Ghost Rider, that he lost a little bit of control. You know, he was much more aggressive, and sometimes he would do things that were that Johnny Blaze himself would not do normally, but because he was partially possessed, he would. So I related to that. And the fact that he kept overcoming that possession or that curse that he was under gave me hope that I could. And ultimately I did, you know, with faith, family, and friends and professional help, you know, I was able to overcome it. And so I there's a kinship there. There's a relationship that I had with, I know it sounds corny to hear it at this point, but at that point in my life, it really did make a difference in helping me overcome that.
We got a comment here for you. Stunt Rider Roger would make a better movie than Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I'm not that good of a motorcycle rider. I had one a long time ago, and man, I fell off that thing all the time.
But we all had bikes as a kid and a piece of plywood on a milk crate, man, or a curb on the sidewalk. That's all you needed. We were all stunt riders.
Oh yeah.
And all going home with our scrapes and bruises.
Yeah, I had more raspberries than a farmer's market. Trust me, it was everywhere. Yeah.
Now, did you consume the media back in the day too when you were growing up that was related to comics? Like, did you have some favorite comics?
The Shazam in a van?
TV shows?
Oh yeah, Saturday mornings, Gary. I would wake up early to watch as many shows as I could. You know, back then, you know, I didn't have a TV in my room, but you know, the living room was kind of separated from the bedrooms, and my parents worked late. They were restaurateurs. So you know, I would have the TV for myself on Saturday mornings from like 7 through 11 or so. So yeah, I watched all the shows in the morning. You know, Shazam, of course, like the superhero, the Super Friends, a Power Hour, all that stuff. Thundar the Barbarian was a favorite of mine.
Oh, Thundar is a definite favorite of mine.
Yeah, Space Ghost and the Herculoids.
Electro Woman and Dyna Girl.
Oh, you know it, of course, Rob. Of course.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And the problem I had is that usually you had them on all three networks, and so
trying to bounce back and forth because there was no VCR.
No VCR. Yeah, and a commercial you changed it, and you're like, oh, hopefully, it was Great Babe. Well, not that much, you know. So back and so forth.
But there was something great about that, right? Because you had the anticipation all week of Saturday morning. And I think that's something that has left society today is the excitement of anticipation for things.
I agreed. Agreed. You know, now everything is, you know, at our disposal pretty much. We can go and buy these packages of digital shows and have them at our fingertips on demand. Back then you had to work for your shows. You know, you had to hey, listen, like Spider-Man, that really limited animation stuff. That was like at 3:30. You had to run home from school to get there in time to watch the episode. You know, that was just the way it was.
Still the best damn theme song ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's not a better Spider-Man theme song.
Yeah, I would get home and my book bag would be on the floor and the TV would be on for all the after school specials and getting your afternoon cartoons in.
Yeah. I was only able to watch the one, then I had to do my homework, but I got that one in.
And get home for the local independent station had what I affectionately refer to as the Japanese man in rubber suit hours, where because you come home and they had Johnny Sacco who's fighting robot and space giants and Ultraman, and then you slip in the anime with Battle of the Planets, and sometimes you might get an episode of Star Blazers or something in there before, or Robotech before it would.
Cool stuff.
And I don't know if you guys had this where you guys lived respectively, but I remember on Sunday nights where I lived, but it would be like 5:00. They'd have like the horror show, and it would highlight like you get one horror movie a week on one of the networks. So I was always there, like seeing what horror movie I was going to watch that week, whether it was a rubber suit monster movie or one of the old
creature features.
Yeah, creature features.
One of the old Hammer ones or what have you. They always had something odd, but those were a great joy too.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, we had those. I think that was like Saturday afternoons where I was. We had creature feature, double feature. I remember that. And they would have two of them.
Ours was like at 11:00 at night, so it was like the late night thing that they would do. And there's actually still one of the independent stations that went WB, but then came back to being a independent that still does it to this day. They even have the hosts still get all done up in monster garb and like have people there in the studio dancing during the cut segments and stupid stuff.
Oh yeah,
but
it's so great.
Yeah, those were good stuff. That was good.
It's an art of fun we don't have anymore.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes Mystery Science Theater 3000 captures that.
I hate they talk too much. I want to watch the movie.
They interrupt too much. Yeah.
I always have to go back and go find the movie.
Yeah, and that little head is sometimes really protruding onto the screen too. Hey, Mike. Hey, Jimmy.
The Abbott and Costello meets are great. Yeah, good.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk about Oddball Comics, because you and I both have a love for Oddball Comics, whether it's promotional or a message book. But where did that start for you? Like what promotional comic kicked off your love of that? And what is it about them that really attracts you to them? Because that's one of the things that gravitated me towards your channel too. It's like, oh, someone else likes these weird books that I like.
Oh yeah. I've got 3 short boxes of my giveaways, sendaways, promos. You know, the very, very underrated public service comics.
Right.
Yes.
Public service announcements, right?
I love those books.
Oh man, you kidding me? I would say the first one that I remember getting was that Charleston Chew one from the 90s, which was, I think it was a flip book. I think Avengers and maybe Spider-Man on the back, or I'm not sure, Wolverine. I forgot. There's a couple of them. And I didn't know about promotional because you didn't get those through the LCS.
Right.
Now I remember getting like the Pizza Huts in the 80s and things like that. Right. But that's, I didn't keep those, you know, something happened to them. But once I found in the early 90s, those promotional comics, every time I went through a quarter bin, I'd pull them out because nobody wanted them. Nobody. Right.
Superman versus the Cavity Creeps.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely, yeah. You know, like you had the new Teen Titans drug issue, that was everywhere. You had the like the Casper mini comics, those were around. You had the March of Comics, which were like from Sears and shoe salesmen and all those kind of things. And then you had, of course, the detergent comics, all, you know, Tide and all those things. So when mom would buy something, I'd say, hey, if it has a comic on it, buy it, you know. So I have quite a collection. In fact, if you look up behind me there, right there, there's a bunch of them right there. You there?
Yeah, and there's something so fun about them. Do you remember the 7-Eleven one that had Captain America, Spider-Man, the Hulk, and Spider-Woman?
Sure do. I got it.
Yeah, I got
there's actually two of them.
And a completely silly story, but so much fun.
Yeah, totally nonsensical. And there's also the mini
whole
comics.
Building, set it back down, and everything still magically works in it.
Yeah, no, it didn't crumble or anything. It just right there. And the little mini comics that they had at 7-Eleven too. Those were one of my favorites, to get those little bitty ones, because you could stick them in your pocket, and you know, and then just take off with them, read them at your leisure. You know, riding your bike or whatever.
Did you ever get the Amiro gum ones? It was 6 of them.
Yep, those were the Bubble Funnies, right?
Yeah, it had there was a Spider-Woman, and there were 10 pagers. Spider-Woman, Spider-Man, Captain America, Hulk, Archie, and Sabrina.
That's right. Yeah, those were it. Bubble Funny. I call them Bubble Funnies, but I think you're right. I think that's the yeah. Here they are. Here they are. Ugh.
Yep. And again, 10 little 10-page stories that were just pure fun.
Yep.
Like the Spider-Woman one, she's fighting Dr. Doom. Of course, Captain America's fighting Red Skull.
Right. And again, because at that point, you know, 7-Eleven had the Slurpee cups. They had they had a lot of the sticker sets. There's also a sticker set for those characters, by the way. And then you had, let me show you the 2 mini comics. I don't know if you have the mini comics, Gary, from that set. But I'm not talking about the ones that came with the gum. I'm talking the giveaways. There was this one.
Ooh.
And this one. Notice the 7-Eleven logo up here?
You'll have to send me what those are, because I'm going to look them up now and buy them.
They're tough to find, man. It took me ages to find these suckers.
Yeah, I got the ones too that came in the Hostess Ding Dongs. They did a series with Spider-Man, and then you had Wolverine and Hulk and Jubilee and stuff in it.
Yeah, those are the Drake's Cakes. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry, the Drake's Cakes.
Yeah,
ones.
Drake's Cakes. Yep, I got those here. I'll show them.
I think I put on some weight during that promotion.
Oh, you kidding me? You know how many Drake's Cakes I had to
comic. Yes,
I had to buy to find the whole set. You know.
Oh, yep. I got the whole set here. I had a whole set like 3 or 4 times over. I gave away 2 sets, and then I kept 2 sets for myself.
Oh, you're a nice guy, man. You're a nice guy.
So we're giving them away because they're just fun.
They are a lot of fun. They are a lot of fun. But you know that they have pretty good art in them.
They do, and the stories were decent.
They were decent. Yeah, they were decent. Yeah, This was I think this was the second set, the 5 one.
Yeah, there's a set. Yeah, there's a set of those I still have to hunt down too. So, but luckily we live in an age now where if you want something, you can find it.
Yeah, it's pretty much a matter of money, you know.
Right.
Drake's is the brand that makes ding dongs. Yeah.
I just remember eating a lot of boxes of ding dongs and reading those.
A lot of ding dongs, and there's a couple other ones that I went to just to get the comics, including Hardy's. Let me see if I have those here.
Hey, Gene Marlowe has a question for you.
Yeah.
He says, "What are those small books called?"
Mini comics. That's what I call them.
And usually, Gene, like the ones where 7-Eleven, I just type in, if I'm searching on eBay or something, I'll type in 7-Eleven promo comics.
Right.
or promo minis if they're specifically mini comics.
Yeah, here's the Hardys. These were in
Yeah, those are the
meals.
ones I got to get still.
You know, I didn't like Hardys, Gary, but you know, my mom said, "Hey, you want to go to Burger King or Hardee's?" I was like, "Hardee's," and she was like, "Really?"
We
Yeah.
never had one around us, so
Yeah, we only had a couple, so
I've still never ate at one. I've never been to one.
well,
Not missing
not
anything.
the biggest loss in the world, you know. But yeah, you got to do what you got to do, you know.
Right?
You got to do what you got to do.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people don't know, like, there's this whole world of comics in these odd promotion ones, and there's just it's a fun little bubble in the comics world.
It is a lot of fun, and again, they're generally not that expensive, but very obscure, very tough to find. It's a challenge. If you like a challenge in your comic collecting, and I do, that's why I get the stuff I get. I don't get the expensive stuff. I get the hard to find stuff, which is
right.
Obscurity versus, you know, value, right?
Oh yeah, like that one with the one promotional one against bullying, or it was, I forgot, with the McFarlane cover with the kids playing hockey.
Yes, I got
and the
that
smoke
one, yeah.
screen one. I buy that every time I see it with Spider-Man, Luke Cage, and Storm against Smokescreen.
Smokescreen, yep.
And they reprinted that with a different cover and same exact manuscript, just a new artist and a new cover.
Yeah, exactly. Same story, just redone, you know. Here's a couple. I think this was sent to me by, I'm not sure if it was James Gallegos or Jackson Roykirk.
Ooh,
but
nice.
I love these Casper dental ones. They're so cool.
That is awesome. And you know who I loved back then in those comics was Hot Stuff.
Hot Stuff, yes. The Little Devil.
Yep.
So, you know, that's just a collecting niche that I really like beyond, you know, obviously they're not in continuity usually or anything like that. But, you know, you can keep them like in a binder like this at hand. And generally they're either very small sets or one shots. So there's not like a lot of, you know, investment of time to track them down. Usually it's a very small series.
And the biggest challenge with the promo comics is when you're looking for them is finding them in good condition.
Oh, yeah.
Because if someone did have them, they treated them like garbage, tossed them around, or
yeah, that's true. I mean, to me, as long as they're sort of okay, you know, as long, you know, if they're off the staples, I generally will try to upgrade. But as long as they're complete, win-win. I have a couple real old ones that have like puzzles filled in, but I'll never find those again. So, you know, they're staying.
I had to diverge off that because that's another thing I appreciate about the way you collect, because I do the same thing. I will go and pull a whole series out of the dollar bins and have the best time reading it. Like, I'm not going in there. Everything doesn't have to be about high value. Sometimes it's just about a good story. You got all these great writers from all these ages, right? Like Roy Thomas and Bill Mantlo, stuff like that were just writing all, like, not just the big series like Avengers or Conan or Batman or Superman, but they were writing these little series that went 8 to 12 issues or even 6 issues that were fantastic, and they're just lost now.
Correct. Yeah, correct. There's lots of short runs that are, you know, what happens sometimes with short runs, it's not that the story and art are not necessarily good or they didn't have the effort. It's just that they were sometimes ahead of their time, or, you know, the subject matter was something that was not popular at the time.
Right. Or it came out in the wrong era. Like,
right, the wrong era. Like Shanna the She-Devil, which was a 5-issue series from the I think 72, 73. I mean, you got Steranko on the covers. You got some really, really good stories there about, you know, essentially somebody who wants to preserve and the forest and the jungle, and she has the 2 different cats, the big cats. But, you know, female leads back then just weren't taking, except for Wonder Woman. So, right. You know, the cat Even Ms. Marvel only lasted 23 issues back in the
Right, and
70s.
2 of those finished in Marvel Superheroes. Her
Yeah.
last 2 issues were printed in
Yeah,
there.
and that was actually the first Rogue. If you want to be technical about it, that was the first Rogue. It was supposed to be in Ms. Marvel 24, or 25. I forgot which one, but it didn't make it until much later.
And like what Ranger Sly says too, you know, some of those, like what's big nowadays is buying things in collected volumes. And I have the full ROM run. I have all the Micronauts from Marvel. But you can't, you either have those books like you do, Roger, or you don't, because they're licensed properties that they can't do reprints of.
Right.
So you either have the floppies or you don't have the floppies.
That's right. No collected editions. That's right. Yeah, like Master of Kung Fu is one that I completed that run, not because of that reason, but you know, they no longer have the Sax Romer characters. Marvel doesn't have the license to those anymore, so they had to change things up for the movie and all that, you know, and it just lost me. It lost that really tight, you know, type of characters and how they interacted.
Right.
So to me, you have to have the floppies for that. It's the only way to get the full experience.
And he also had an edge to him that I liked the movie a lot, but he didn't have that edge to him like he did in the comics.
Yeah, in the comics, he had, remember, he was the product of an upbringing that was essentially a big lie, right? It's just a canard. He thought he was being trained to take over for his father, who was this, you know, benevolent and, you know, very worldwide leader, and he ended up being you know, a crummy conqueror, you know. And once he realized that, he was like, I can't be a part of this. So that tells you, right, that no matter how you're brought up, there's always something in us that realizes what's right and wrong.
Right.
And it's up to us to sort of for us to sort of massage that, so that we can discern what the right thing to do at any given situation. And that is what Chang-Chi did. Exactly that. He betrayed his father because he wasn't a killer. You know, he knew that was morally incorrect. And, you know, and because of that, he was constantly harassed and, you know, and obviously tried to be assassinated by his father, which is like just mind-boggling as a father myself, that anybody would do that to somebody you love.
You know what? There's another argument for the floppies over these collected editions, and that is those collected editions just don't have the smell that those old floppies have.
True.
You're right. You're absolutely right. That it's, to me, you know,
It's experience.
People call me weird, right? But there are many weird people here. Like Simon, he licks some of his comics, you know. You know, I don't. I smell them. I open them too, and this is the way to do it, guys. Right? You open to the centerfold carefully, you know, and you go from top to bottom and bottom to top, and you have that decaying pulp. It's almost like it's intoxicating to me, you know.
It's part of
it's
the
just
experience.
a bit of must, and it's just
exactly
it's
right.
just like,
Exactly.
oh.
You know, the newer comics with that slick feel, just you know, just doesn't have the right.
I always that's why my favorite part of mail call is when I open up a package and you just get that first hit, and then when you open up that poly bag and it just really starts to come out. Oh man, that's
and those old print books too, they had a resilience to them that the new ones don't have. Or I'm afraid to touch some of the pages because oh man, are the oils on my skin gonna leave a mark? What's gonna, you know,
right?
You had that old newsprint. That stuff was tough.
Yeah. I find it funny that I see people reading their comics with gloves and things like that. And you know, at least they're reading them, right? Try not to inhale the staple rust. No,
that's where the hit comes from for them, Bub.
Yeah, no. Look, staple rust. That's a whole nother, you know, dynamic on smelling that I don't partake of. Okay, I like the pulp.
Yeah, the biggest thing is I don't mind. There are some of my books that like they are gloves just because the edges, you can feel how soft they are, how much oil they've absorbed already and
Right.
stuff. And it's like, oh, okay, they need to. You definitely don't want to flip the pages. You want to make sure that you're carefully turning the pages.
Hey, Bill.
Fashionably
I'm-
late so
I'm
he
with
can
you.
make an entrance.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. You know, most of my collection is not very high grade. It's more mid grade stuff. So, you know, I'll read them carefully, but I do read them. You know, except
That's how you get volume.
yeah,
Is
it's true,
mid-grade,
true,
right?
yeah. Like I won't read my Hulk 181 now, right? I have a facsimile. I'll read that, but
Right.
I will open the bag and give it a whiff here and there.
Smells like Canada.
Smells like Wendigo.
So now,
As
being
long as it's not wet.
Right.
being a collector back then, you weren't one of those dirty Marvel stamp clippers, right? Damaging the comics and cutting parts out. Uh-oh, he was.
Yeah. Unfortunately, okay, listen, let me set the record straight, first of all. Back then, comics were not seen as collectibles, right? I mean, not as valuable collectibles, right? And Stan Lee said, clip them and save them, right? So I listened to Stan, and I clipped a whole...
That's a good argument right there. Yeah,
Right?
listen to Stan.
Listen to Stan, right? I clipped a whole 1 through 100 set out of my comics and my cousins. We kind of, I didn't have all of them, all the different ones, and he had some. So we combined them. We clipped them all out. We didn't have one of those stamp books, so we made our own. You know, we sort of copied the title and the whole bit. We put the little outline and the stamp #1. You know, Hulk 100, Galactus, the whole bit. You know. So I currently have about a dozen comics from my original collection that still have the stamp clipped out, but I am slowly recapturing those. So I will have a totally stamp filled collection, hopefully before I go on to the next level here, you know, to my just rewards.
See, I can never bring myself to tomorrow page of anything.
Well, remember,
Oh,
this was when I was 8 or 9 years old, Gary. I mean,
I'm saying he was a kid.
I've
I was like,
matured just
no,
a
I
little
can't do it.
tad bit since then, you know.
And then they had the second run of stamps where it was like a big picture, like they did like Dracula and
Right, as a puzzle. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah,
I didn't
tried
cut
to
those
Google
out.
to see what it would look like all done, but I wasn't going to clip it.
Then there were
No,
things
I-
that you were clipping out to send in the ad to get, along with 25 cents for shipping and get something back, and come on, all those things. Well,
Yeah, the only thing you would get is if you would go to one of the Marvel conventions, you would get a special surprise. To date, I don't know what that surprise was. It might have been like a poster or something. I don't know what it could be. That's the only thing I remember you could get. But that wasn't the point. The point was Stan Lee said, clip him and save him. So I did.
Well, I'm glad Stanley didn't tell you to jump off a bridge, Roger.
Right, because I would have done it.
well, in that
Stan
case,
was
the real
man,
question
you
is,
know?
do you have a full collection of the stamps then?
I do, but in the comics, not the album that we put together is long gone.
Right.
You didn't
And,
really
and
miss
there
the
was some
stamp.
good art in those stamps. You know, you had people like John Buscema doing them, and I mean, it was good artists.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of them were taken from interior panels. There is a site, MVS Stamps. I don't know if it's .com, but MVS Stamps something, and it has them all there. I actually contributed to that site and found some of the art. You know, some of them are from Slurpee cups, some of them from promotional art. So it's really cool.
Now, what are some of the oddball collections that are tied to comics that you might have in your collection at home? Like you keep mentioning the 7-Eleven cups. What kind of other oddball stuff do you have around the house that's tied to comics that you picked up over the years?
I have a few lunch boxes. I have some Big Little books. I have a lot of like comic related magazines, like Comic Scene, Comic Collector, things like that. I have a few figures. I have a Deathlock figure. I have Hulk, Spider-Man, and of course I have some video games, like in the Atari video games that had the Atari Force comics inside. I got a few posters and things like that, but not really like vintage stuff as far as that goes.
Like just oddball stuff here and there.
Yeah,
huh?
just oddball things here and there I picked up over the years. Yeah.
So let's talk about your other love, video games. What started that with you? Was it comics that got you into video games too, because you wanted to play your favorite heroes, or was it something else?
I think comics had something to do with it, because I remember wanting to play the Spider-Man and Superman Atari 2600 game. But I remember it was just the technology, right? When I had the Pong, the one with the dials.
Yep.
And I played that with my brother. We had to hook it up to our black and white TV here. There, we shared a room when we were younger, and we were supposed to go to bed at 10 or whatever. And it didn't happen. We'd stay up till all hours just moving that little Pong ball back and forth. And then when the Atari 2600 came out in 77, I want to say, we got one eventually. I think we got it like about a year later. And now, that was, the end of the world now, because now you had not just the little ball going, but you had platformers and you had shooters.
Right.
You had Pac-Man. So we played that to the wee hours, at least for 3 or 4 years.
On ColecoVision, I remember playing a lot.
ColecoVision was arcade perfect, pretty much. At least we thought at that time.
Right.
But I didn't have one till much later on.
I'm a straight up 2600 boy. My 2600 is still in the garage. So most of the cartridges still work. The harder part is the paddles, because those joysticks were plastic parts, and you felt as a kid like the harder that you to jam it over, the more reactive it would be, and eventually you crack those things. And I'm on aftermarket joysticks, and I don't know how much longer I can continue to find them, but I'd love to dust off Yar's Revenge and Pitfall Harry. And
oh yeah, they still make them, Rob.
Yep.
They still make aftermarket, and I have a complete Heavy Sixer set that I found in a garage sale 7-8 years ago.
Yeah,
and,
Hours of Tanks. Yes.
Those things are, and I restored it. It wasn't working that well, with kind of fuzzy, so I took off all the capacitors and I replaced them, and now it works. Vintage good.
Yeah. Now the hardest part is make sure you got a TV that it works on, right?
Right. Yeah. It doesn't work. It doesn't work well on the flat screeners. No.
Yep. It's like got a tube TV.
Yeah,
just
it doesn't work well. Yeah.
Right. You need that 75-pound TV to play them on.
Yeah. There are some modern TVs that'll work on, but
you have to get some adapters, or
right.
I can run it through. I have I have a VCR DVD combo machine in the bedroom that I can pass through. It does a pass through that you can.
Yeah, it modulates the signal to modern TVs. Yeah, I've done that as well. Yeah. Yeah.
So, whatever you can do.
You got it.
What game do you revisit playing the most, Roger?
Wow. I love that Combat, I mean,
yeah, Combat was good.
Man, I mean, I remember having the standalone one. I think my brother actually bought it, and it had the little handle with the trigger on top, like that. So I like that. I like the one that when it bounces off the wall, because you had to have a certain trajectory.
Invisible tanks with bouncing targets.
With bouncing shots. Yeah,
that was my favorite.
Yeah, the only thing is I have to find somebody that is old enough to play with me that remembers it. Yeah. So when my brother comes over, we play it. Although we haven't played it recently, but and every time a friend comes visit me, I say, "Hey, do you remember Combat?" And we'll go at it.
Yeah. Hey, Ranger. Yes, I actually have a copy of ET in the garage. I still haven't beaten it.
You can't finish that game,
Yeah, I don't pull it out very often, but it's there just to say that you have it at this point.
It's terrible.
when I dust that machine off, it's really literally I want to play Pitfall, River Raid, Yar's Revenge, Defender. Those are like my four favorite.
Space Invaders, Rob. You gotta
Space
play
Invaders. No, right. But my Space Invaders cartridge doesn't work anymore.
Oh,
Like I've tried blowing on it, everything else, it just doesn't.
Send it to me. I'll see what I can do.
Oh,
Asteroids.
do you restore
Asteroids
video
was also
games?
a big one because
Asteroids
it was the
is good,
vector
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So do you restore video games too, Roger?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I restored my Odyssey 2. Actually, I have 3 Odyssey 2s that I picked up at junk sales and have managed to get them to work. My Sega Genesis, I've restored that. Actually, I added audio-visual cables to it because, you had to have that adapter. I didn't have it.
Mhm.
So I just took it off the board, the signal, and now you can plug it into a composite
Nice.
TV. And let's see, what else do I have over there that I've restored? Oh, and my NES, my Nintendo. Yeah. And my Super Nintendo. The Nintendo was not a big deal. I think I had one bad capacitor and a bad power regulator. But the Super Nintendo had a bad chip. So I had to harvest another board that I had that wasn't working. And I managed to solder it in, and now it works perfectly.
Yeah, and I love the Genesis too. I don't know how mine didn't burn out. I played it for hours every single day.
Oh, those things were tanks, Gary.
They were.
Those things were tanks. I think mine. I still have the Sega CD thing with it, and man, I played Sewer Shark. Hundreds of hours. And the thing still works like new. So.
I did that with the PlayStation 1 too. I don't think that system, if I was home, it was on.
Yeah.
And that's where I discovered Diablo.
These things are pretty resilient, really. Yeah. Yeah. My TurboGrafx 16, that thing is, for the time, the graphics are just outstanding. And I haven't done anything to that. It's worked the same way it's worked for 30 some years. So.
Yeah, they were solid built then.
Yeah,
because we're a household with a bunch of systems, and our PS3 actually gave up the original PS3 gave up the ghost last year towards the end. It was just like, we're good.
Those old video CD ones.
But I'm like, man, if it was a Genesis, it'd still be going.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those Genesis were tanks, man. I know. I played them to death, and I tell you, it's amazing. Even better than the Nintendos. The Nintendos were pretty good, but they did, like, that tray thing was always a problem, and the game would sometimes not really fit well and wouldn't make good contact. But the Genesis, you just put that thing straight in.
Yep, and you're
no
good.
Problems.
And you never had to blow on the Genesis one either. You just put it in and went.
Just put it in. Good stuff, man. Good times those were.
Nice. So as we're getting closer to the end, so what is an all-time? You must have an all-time favorite character. What is that character? If you could only read one character from here on out, who would it be?
Gary, you put me on the spot, my friend. Man, I love so many characters. I mean, they for many different reasons. But I guess if you said, okay, Roger, I'm putting you on a deserted island and you could only have one run, okay, I would say the Silver Age Captain America run would be my pick. Captain America to me just is an embodiment of the ideals of our country and just of morality in general. And sometimes when, as a youngster, you're reading these comics and you're saying, well, is it really making an impression upon you, right? Is it really doing anything? Is it enhancing you in any way? I would say Captain America did. It taught me about, fealty to country, about doing the right thing, about, putting others before myself, about having courage. And what the courage means is not, hey, you did it because you don't have fear. No, you have fear and you still do it. And that's kind of one of the lessons that I've learned from him, besides the incredible stories and art and and the way that he carries himself, I mean, it really was a role model to me to a great degree. So
Nice.
that would be what I would pick. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of 1As right around him,
Oh, there always are. Those are always the toughest questions. Like, how do you narrow something down?
Yeah, that's very tough, man. That's so tough.
Now, is there a character that you think that they've ruined that you think needs to be set back on track?
Yeah. Now, I knew this guy was going to come in with a human fly thing, right? Because that's sort of like everybody is always razzing me about human fly. It was the one series of Marvel that I just could not take, right? So yeah.
It was a little out there.
Yeah, man, I tell you, I mean, I don't want to criticize it because I know it has its fans, right? But it just wasn't for me. That's all I can say. So a character they've ruined. So in other words, like an old time character that currently I think is not being done well. Is that the question?
Right. Like you were reading it as younger, you thought that was the sweet spot, and now you just think that they're completely off base with the character.
Well, I don't read a lot of modern stuff. I'll say this. Maybe this will answer your question. And this is a long time ago, but it's what I think ruined, right? When Marvel was going through those financial difficulties and their readership was going down in the mid 90s, they sort of gave up 4 titles to the Image guys, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Avengers, and Captain America. And that is where my collection of those titles stopped, right? So I have a complete Captain America from 100 to 454, and I refuse to get anything beyond that.
Right. Well,
because
the
to me,
Liefeld Captain America is horrible.
Right. And it's not Liefeld per se, but it's Marvel sort of saying, well, we've run out of ideas, so we have to give it to somebody else, right? So Marvel to me was always the house of ideas. That was one of their slogans.
Right.
So that really turned me off to Marvel to a great degree. I was still getting a lot of DC and things like that. So at that point, when you're running out of ideas and you're saying to yourself, well, we can't do it, we have to farm it out. These characters that were created 30 some years before by Stan Lee and Kirby and Severin and Ditko, legends, to me that's ridiculous. You
right.
find a way of getting it done. You just don't give up and say, well, because they're selling a lot of comics, we're going to give it to them. And it failed because it wasn't Marvel anymore. It was an imagized version of those characters. And essentially it bore little resemblance to the characters that we loved, from the Bronze Age and into the Copper Age. So that would be the way I want to answer my question. So I'm not gonna try to answer something that I have no reference to because I haven't bought any Marvels from the 2000s on. So,
and especially, I mean, why would they expect people to continue when they're not showing interest in their own properties?
Right. I mean, they did come back. More, Heroes return, and they got Perez. They got a lot of they got a lot of creators back into it. But at that point, they lost me because they didn't have, to me, they just gave up. That's the way I looked at it. And I didn't give up on them. They gave up on me.
Exactly. I say that all the time about the damn Raiders. Wait, oh, sorry.
Imagized. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't know if that is a word. I guess I coined it.
Well, that you should say you did, because now Bill owes you $5 for saying it.
Well, knowing him, he'll probably think I owe him.
All right. So my last question for you, Rob, I don't know if you have any before I get to mine.
I just had a couple. Having read across from different zone eras and stuff, I'm kind of curious. A couple different get a couple different beats on you here.
Mm-hmm.
That favorite member of the extended Spider family of characters.
Favorite member of the extended Spider family. Wow, that's a good question, Rob.
Well, there's a series of them here, so I'm going to hit you with a couple.
I would say, honestly, J. Jonah Jameson.
Okay.
Is my favorite because he was the villain that Spider-Man can never defeat.
Okay.
Right? I mean, he smeared Spider-Man. He would just rake him over the coals. He'd hire villains, but he could never tie anything back to him that, you know, that he could physically or in any other way attack him, you know. So I thought that was a very genius. That was a genius move, you know, by Lee and the creators to have, you know, that kind of antagonist that it didn't have superpowers, but it was somebody that Spider-Man could never really defeat because he was his employer and he was media and he didn't do things illegal. Well, he did do some things illegal, but not illegal enough for him to get into trouble. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that was an okay answer, but we all know the real answer is Jessica Drew.
Well, she wasn't originally part of the Spider-Man mythos. She had her own, as you know.
Best Flash.
Yeah, she had her own kind of universe, you know. She was
did.
She did, you know, Marvel 2-in-1. She did Marvel Team Up, and then later on she became more like part of like the investigations with Tigra and all that. All
right, so best Flash.
Best Flash?
Yeah, you don't have to explain yourself. Just these are a couple hot hits here, quick. Best favorite favorite version of the Flash.
Favorite version? It's got to be the Barry Allen Flash for me. You know, the Silver Age.
Green Lantern, same thing.
Green Lantern, yeah, Hal Jordan all the way. No doubt about it.
Favorite member of the Justice League.
I love seeing Roger think about it.
You're hitting me hard, man.
Yeah, hard and fast here.
Hard and fast. I'm going to say Martian Manhunter.
All right, favorite Avenger.
Wow.
That's the last one.
Favorite Avenger. I'm going to have Captain America on that. Yeah.
Oh, good job. All right. Respectful. Respect it all. I especially love the Jameson one because I wasn't even thinking outside of the various incarnations of Spider people. But you're right, James Jameson, who's a very complex character and means a lot to the whole mythos there. It's very good.
Absolutely. It was a good answer.
Yeah, the story elements that came from that character alone were amazing when you think about it. Just the chaos that he created for Spider-Man was way over any other villain.
and the villains he inadvertently created, plus his son John Jameson, the Man Wolf.
That's right. Right. Yeah, Scorpion, the Man Wolf. He even sucked. One time he hired Luke Cage to get Spider-Man. I mean, it's just on and on and on. The Spider Slayers. Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. All right. So my last question for you, for us to round out the evening, is obviously all of us here are big community people. What has the comic book community on YouTube meant to you?
Wow, Gary. I mean, this is your last question. How much time do we have, man? I mean,
that's why it's the last one. It gives you
till next Thursday when we're
next on Thursday. Again. Okay, good.
Yeah. So
part 2 with Roger.
right. You know, initially, I'll try to make this as brief as I can. Right. Initially, when I made a YouTube video, I never even envisioned me being part of the community at all. Right. Essentially, I just put out a video because somebody requested it. That I was commenting and so forth. And then people just said, well, we want to see more and more and more. And so I sort of got immersed into, the incredible love and support and generosity that I saw here. And now, it's like a huge part of my life. I have more friends on YouTube than I've ever could imagine having here on Earth, and I've met a few of them. First time I just met Bub, Silver Age Dave. I've met Night Tiger several times. I've met Raul, and I hope to meet many more as I go on. And every single one of them has been just an incredible, enriching experience to me. So it means a lot to me. I don't envision me in any way in the future not being part of this community because you are all my friends and I care about each one of you deeply. if you're hurting, I'm hurting. And that's why we get together. We've done benefit auctions for like OMG Chris when he passed away, and his brother had all these bills, and because of it, and things like that. That's the kind of love and camaraderie and fellowship that we share here. And in today's society, it's a very rare thing to have people that you care so closely about that are such high quality people that you can trust. And I found that every single time I've interacted with anybody in the community.
Awesome.
Great answer. And like I said, my gateway into the community, because I was much like you. I was just making a video and I didn't even know that there was such a thing as a community, right? And then you discover it and it takes you in. But then one of the first things I found on there was your promotional videos for other channels. That's why I always tell you that you're the godfather of the community. You're the one you started it all. So it was like really good stuff.
Thank you, Gary. That means a lot, my friend. And honestly, I only do it because it exudes from me. You guys give me so much that I just feel compelled to give back, and at least in my small way. You've done it. You've brought so many channels to other channels. That you have been such a glue, a nexus here, and I am just above the moon to be able to call you a friend, and what you do here makes a difference, and I wanted you to know that.
Oh, well, thank you, Roger. But like I said, you blaze the way for everybody, buddy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, man.
You were the teacher. And a good one. Well, what's Ranger got here? Exactly. Endlessly promoting other people's channels. And Ranger had it right up there when he was talking about you're the first thought when it comes to community. And that is exactly true. But Roger, thank you for coming on the channel. We're going to go around real quick. You're the guest. You always get the last goodbye. But let's go to Rob first. Rob, what have you got coming up on the channel for yourself, buddy?
Saturday is Slab Hub. I'm not sure why I was so excited about it. I was originally excited. Skeff was coming on. Unfortunately, Skeff had to back out and was left scrambling to try to find a guest, and was reaching out to everybody who was on the schedule ahead of time, see if I could rein someone in. And people had various things going on and whatnot. And at the end of the day, I was forced to have to reach out and take a gamble on bringing Mr. Tyler from Whack Comics back on again.
Now, did you set any rules for his second appearance?
Oh, I've said all kinds of things, and he keeps saying, "Yeah, I'm bringing slabs." So, we'll see. Well, my son is home at least this week, so if nothing else, I can tap out and I can put a guest host in here that knows something about Pokemon, if that's the case that happens again. But we'll see.
Cool.
Nice. And
other than that, I got a bunch of cool shit to open on Monday.
Sweet.
Nice.
It's like you're never caught up with your mail calls. You always got a stack.
Oh, and I don't know if it'll be here in time for Monday or not, but I just secured an awesome 1949 Dell 4-color book. I can't wait for it to get here in high grade.
Ooh. Potential slabbing it up or keeping
it. Oh, hell yeah. As I do, baby.
I figured.
after I get a chance to go through it.
Oh, look at Bob. I'm something of a slab collector myself. Well, Bob, you need to get a hold of Rob.
Well, I'll reach out to Bob.
Yeah,
he's got some impressive stuff. He really does. And
we got to get Bob on the 1011 and on this show as well.
Yeah.
Now, coming up for me, we actually have Adrian Pandasum on next week's the 1011 on our fourth show of that. So he's super excited to come on and show off what he's got. And for all of you out there, if you're interested in coming on the 1011, just reach out to me on Instagram. I've already had a few people do it. That show is it's only twice monthly, sometimes 3 times, depending if there's a 5th week. and we're already booked out, I think, into May on that show. So if you want a slot on the 10-1-1, reach out to me. And guys, it's raw books or slabs, just $10. I think everyone thinks it's slabs. It's just slabs. It's not. It's raw books. It's just 10 books plus a pick for spec and one with a story. It doesn't matter what the 10 books are. It doesn't matter if it's worth a quarter or worth $2 million. It doesn't matter. It's just about the books and your connection to them. Roger, what have you got coming up, sir?
Yeah, I love that 10-1-1 show. I mean, Matt Woods was so good, wasn't he? He was just amazing. Love it. Well, first I want to thank everybody in the chat. I've been reading some of the comments here, and you guys are the best as always. I already knew that. I'm just so honored to be part of this community, and it's comments like these, Gary, that that motivate me to do more things. To come up with more ways of putting us together, right? So I am running. As you know, you made that great support video. Thank you again for my Road to 1500 giveaway. And I think I'm currently at 1,474 subs, somewhere like about 25, 26 subs away. But when I get to 1,500, we're going to have a big to-do. We're going to have a big live stream. We're going to do community building. We're going to have special guests. We're going to have the giveaway that I have, plus I have another special just for the live performance, the live stream, and others are going to give away things. And again, I just love. Really, it's an excuse. I wanted to do it anyway, right? So
right.
I just put Road to 1500 as an excuse to do it because it's been 2 years since I did my 1,000, right? So I, and if for whatever reason, if you're, you don't have to subscribe to me, but if when the live stream comes on. I'd love for you to be there because, I'd love for everybody else to get to know each other, right? To connect.
Right.
So that's the big thing that I'm running now. I did just drop my haul from Fantasticon today. And so, if you want to see a lot of comics, see that video.
Oh, I'll definitely be checking it out. Today was a long work day, so I'm behind on my videos today.
Right. Yeah. Listen, I know you watch, when you can. Trust me, I'm behind as well because I've been out for 3-4 days, so I'm catching up to everybody. But that's about it. I'm just really honored to be on here with you two guys again. Every time that I'm on one of these shows, it just brings me a little bit, more joy than I had the day before. So thanks again for bringing me on and being able to, to share these stories with everybody. It's something I love to do, obviously. So it's right up my alley.
We love to hear them. Everyone in the chat, thank you guys for an exceptional turnout. Very busy chat, very active chat. Again, a lot of people watching. We'll get a lot of people on the rewind, and just a fantastic evening. Roger, thank you for once again coming on one of my shows and spending the time with us. Rob, thanks for co-hosting yet again, sir. And as we like to end this thing, awkward ending.